Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Paul, Refracted Curvature, Brian's Logic, Flatsoid, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Hey.
Good morning.
Hola.
Good morning. Good to have you all. Welcome.
Hello.
Good to be here. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
If you're using VR, probably.
One more time.
Is that the place? Is that the place where they take Hell's Angles from?
Hell's Angles? Yeah.
You said
molten
if
iron
you're
core.
using VR.
VR to go to the centre. Oh, I see. No.
No, VR to see the curvature. If you're using VR, you can see it. That's what
Whatever, man. Whatever you wish you can have in VR.
If you want to travel to the centre of a molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, then you can in VR. Hey, Neil.
I find it very perplexing that the Globers will still want to claim measurements of elevation angles, that they have to actually go to a center of a molten iron core to get it.
Well, yeah, they can't get an elevation angle measurement from a molten iron core. You're talking about acquisition of a plane of reference. Well, it's got to be referenceable in order to measure from it and refer to it. So in terms of their transposition of an angle only capable of measurement from a flat plane, that is a transposition to the centre of Earth as opposed to a measurement from the centre of Earth. You can't measure from the centre of Earth. There is no centre of Earth. Even if there was, you couldn't measure from it. Occasionally you'll hear us get into the wrangle-dangle of from and to when we're referencing elevation angles. Now, getting an angle from a curve isn't possible. Drawing a tangent to a curve and implying that that tangent to an inferred sphere that you're not measuring when you derive a plane of reference is a measurement of a sphere. It isn't. When you're actually measuring the stars and taking an angle to them, your measurement is with respect to a plane of reference. That means Earth's flat. That's how you're measuring it. Speaking of which, I had a little moment this morning in terms of thinking about the consequences of a repositioning by other people in flat Earth. So although I'm not particularly genned up on what they mean by this terminology, I can infer what they mean from the terminology and the implications of the use of the terminology. That terminology being true Earth. Now maybe someone will fill me in after this little discussion about what that actually means, but my automatic assumption would be that the words flat Earth are tarnished, and in order to negate that dirt, a remarketing, perhaps the word repackaging, of what is already being offered up for sale currently under the guise of flat Earth would be better served under a title that didn't have that tarnish, and therefore True Earth is born, and you can market things under that label rather than flat Earth. Now that is brilliant news, because previously, literally in the last couple of days, I was contemplating how do we detach ourselves from these individuals, the conspiracy aspects of flat Earth. The route into flat Earth, admittedly, we all took it and it was all conspiratard nonsense. We all had to walk the path. Now we've walked it, we can look back on it with reflection and hindsight and say that that path is tarnished, it's full of nonsense. But there is a market for the tarnish and the nonsense that was on the path. And it's now got a title, True Earth. Good. Because we as flat earthers are now detached from them without us having to do anything. However, there is still also the inference that the dirty title of just flat earth is something that we should stick by. Well, not necessarily. Doesn't mean we can't also do the same. In fact, kudos to you. Remarketing was a very wise choice. And I suggest that we also remarket to a certain extent. And that is to say that measured flat earth would be our hashtag moniker, whatever you want to call it. Because for me, when we describe something with a hashtag, or for them, True Earth, hashtag True Earth, it should have some meaning, some impact, some relevance. Or, if you're on the opposite side of our argument, something to get your teeth into and oppose. Measured flat earth as a hashtag works beautifully, in my humble opinion. I'd like to know yours. Anybody got a comment?
I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I switched phones with my wife, so is it any better?
Yeah. All good.
I disagree. First of all, why they started calling themselves true earthers was because Bev started holding them to task on geometric issues. So they call themselves true earthers because they felt calling themselves flat earthers meant that the whole world had to be a flat plane to describe it as flat. They didn't realize they were just, this is what we're dealing with. These people didn't realize they were just describing the earth as flat. Do you know what I mean? David Weiss and all them. They didn't even realize you were just describing it that way. Do you know what I mean? But because Bev asked them a few questions, was asking questions of these people, and they knew they couldn't answer Bev's questions, so they went off and changed it to true earth, which is pathetic. Now, the term measured flat, I mean, Bev and people like Bev could attack that in a moment, geometrically, and point out, well, if it's measured flat, how come there's elevation changes? And with most people, then you're getting into the wrangle, not with me or maybe some of the other people on the panel, but with a lot of other people, they're meeting a block wall of, if it's measured flat, how come there's elevation changes? And straight away, you're going to fall into a geometric argument about how it's flat when it's not.
I've got to stop you. That seems like a comical response. Right now, I admit we were commenting on this particular response in respect to Ruhif and him decrying the height above sea level that the telescope Mr. Tinfoil Hatman is using is at. Can you remember the response? We laughed at Ruhif with that in mind.
Are you talking about what we're talking about earlier or recently? In recent
I'm just
times?
talking about heights above sea level.
Yeah, heights above sea level, yeah.
Right. So elevation changes, you say?
Yeah, but the point is that saying measured flat, it just doesn't hashtag measured flat. I just won't go with that because it can be attacked. I would go with hashtag flat Noah.
How can it be attacked if it's measured flat?
But
I heard what you said, but I think that's silly.
Look, I raise my concerns. I leave you at it. Do what you want.
Well, they measure, the ballers measure it the same way. It's in their mathematics as how they measure it and how they calculate it. Bev's train wreck argument was to say because there are elevation changes, the horizontal flat plane that you measure those elevation changes is not a horizontal flat plane.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you, John. That was the response I was looking for. You're going to tell me it's not
measured from flat would be better.
It's convoluted. You think there's ambiguity because Bev is suggesting that because there are deviations with respect to a horizontal that's flat plane, he can describe the deviations from the flat reference plane Earth must be to describe those differences in heights, therefore not flat. That means I should change a perfectly outstanding title from Measured Flat Earth to what? It is.
Well,
I don't accept Bev's objection in any way, shape, or form.
I think the issue comes from.
Hold on.
I think the issue comes from that people are being too nitpicky on the word topography. So they're trying to actually scattergun the argument and try and say, well, because you say it's flat, they want you to think of a perfectly smooth surface. But no one actually thinks that. So they're trying to run off of that argument and so say, but you see, because we see topography, so therefore it can't be flat. Without understanding the flat is actually just the foundation. That's all it is.
It seems like a silly argument. I don't care. No offense, Bev. I mean, if you've duped people into believing that this is a coherent argument and that it's worthwhile of their time, then good for you. But it isn't.
Right. It's like if toast is brown and I made toast and it was black, therefore toast does not exist.
It's a stupid argument.
I'm hearing a connection between sea level and elevation.
Yeah. That's what you'll be referencing. Earth as a horizontal plane of reference to tell you how high or low something is with respect to that horizontal plane of reference that Earth must be to even give you the capability of describing elevation changes. Earth is flat. That's how it's measured. And the measurement I'm implying with hashtag measured flat Earth is also a prerequisite for Bev's argument.
Exactly. And we can't help it that they tarnished it. Sorry.
Who tarnished it? It was tarnished when we found our way to flat Earth because the roads into flat Earth were of a conspiratard nature. Now, when you say, I don't know who paved the roads, do you? Does it matter?
I'm talking about the flat earthers that tarnished it with their nonsense.
Who are they?
Those that call it true earth, the Etherites. They've tarnished it and gave flat earth a bad name. And
well,
we're a joke right now. They go to these shows and we become a joke. Look at that video you did the other day.
I don't care anymore. Now they've retitled themselves. I'm more than happy. It's like when I was saying we must divorce ourselves from them. But I'm then saying, what are we going to do about the fact we've still got the same surname? That's a bit of a problem, isn't it? We're still called Flat Earth as well. I'm still happy to call myself a Flat Earther because Earth's flat.
Yeah, remember, just because they so-called excommunicated us, we should be celebrating this. It means we're not part of their cult.
Right. So we celebrate.
But that's what they say affects us, though.
Hold on, let's react to Flatsword's comment. Yeah, exactly. We were discussing excommunication yesterday, or more specifically, Tinfoil Hatman was describing his excommunication from the Jehovah's Witness cult. Now, that excommunication seemed very detrimental at the time to him and anybody who's leaving Scientology or any of the cult. But for us, or me specifically, I've seen the perceived advantage of having people who are with the same surname as us, Flat Earth being that metaphorical surname. They have, of their own volition, changed their surname, metaphorically, from Flat Earth to True Earth. Good. Alrighty then.
Yeah, but we're still attached. Sorry, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, but the problem is, see, this is the problem. I'm going to lay it out, Nathan, and I'm sorry you have to do this, but I have to. Right? The problem is they weren't addressed early enough, and they were allowed to grow. We allowed them to grow when we shouldn't have allowed them to grow. And now they have a much bigger, they already had a bigger base than us. Now they have a much, much bigger base than us.
Well, now they've had kids.
That shouldn't have happened.
In this metaphor, they've had kids. I'm trying to segue onto the video that we're going to be covering. So the problem is that if you remain in the conspiratorial realm of flat earth, in quotes, and therefore feel that there is a necessity to address it, you can only see that as a problem for the people who are taking the information and regurgitating it, which is the segue to today's video. So in this instance, we've covered some of this in the pre-show already, but what you end up with is people that don't actually have a very high standard of evidence when they're presenting it to other people. They have a base understanding of heliocentrism and why it may not work, although often you'll find that their descriptions of why it doesn't work aren't necessarily the reasons it doesn't work, but that's a different issue. Moreover, there'll be baseless assertions made about flat Earth and what it is, the sun and moon and what they are, the stars, what they are, how the mapping works potentially, all sorts of other claims that people can't validate when they assert that Earth is flat. And they will try and attempt to back their claim that Earth is flat, their belief in Earth being flat, with a load of conspiratorial nonsense as a standard. So this video is by GARVEY. Hope I'm saying your name right, my friend. But as always, let this person know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, help this person in the algorithm, so that hopefully, were they to make a response, they would put the same algorithmic love our way. As in, they'd put a link to my video when they tell us how wrong we are. Now, in the pre-show, I say how wrong they are. I should just round out that call to action while people actually do exactly that. So, yeah, click on the link. There's one going by in the info box now. Let him know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And, yeah, give him a like. Do whatever you need to do to not get your comment deleted and indicate that we have responded to his video. And, yeah, hopefully he'll be grateful that we've sent our meager audience to his 100,000+ subscriber channel. I'm sure he'd be grateful. All YouTubers are grateful, even if they've got 1 million subscribers, of algorithmic love that we are sending his way. So that's hopefully a long enough call to action to get a few of you to actually go over there and write a comment and come back. And we'll continue with the video. So, yes, this instance isn't where we'll be criticising the normie. So this guy, Sar, said the same in the pre-show, but it sounds a bit more like a pronoun, so I'm just going to call him normie. So normie here has perfectly reasonable criticisms for the perceived flat earther who's offering up his comments. And so far what we've had is, why do you perceive the moon landings to not be real? And we've had the moon isn't real. It's a non-physical entity by claim of what I think is a flat earther. We don't know yet. But these are the metaphorical children of the nonsense that comes from a road that's riddled with feast of nonsense garbage for people who are on our perceived side to regurgitate out to the masses, only for those masses to become this guy on this show, talking to this normie. And you can hear for yourselves the reactions. We're going to respond to it now.
Okay, but that's because it's reflecting
exactly
the light from the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you're standing on it, So
he hasn't addressed that, but we may as well. So specular reflections debunk the notion of having a reflection of the moon from the sun in terms of how the reflections would actually function in terms of the uniform light that it provides. You wouldn't get that based on what they say the moon is and how specular reflections work. Now, while I'm not going to go into a in-depth description of specular reflections here, that would be the overcome for that discussion point. It just hasn't been overcome by the flat earther.
If we're here on Earth, okay,
right,
look at the moon, it's glowing. Wouldn't you think that when you're standing on it, it would also be glowing? Make it make sense.
Did the flat earther just say that?
The person that was just speaking literally as I paused when you started talking, that was the flat earther. I think. He hasn't declared himself that. He's just declared that the moon landings didn't happen because the moon isn't real, and then started to ask questions now. He was making declarative statements about how Earth isn't heliocentric and it's just a model, but almost reasonable. Now it's moving on to him asking questions of his opponent in terms of making it make sense, as he phrased it. That's the flat earther.
He said the moon was not physical.
Yes, I covered that. Was there anything else, John?
I was just trying to distinguish by their voices which one was which.
Okay. The one with better sound is the flat earther. The one with the echo isn't.
But what do you mean glowing?
He's non-flat earth.
So wouldn't it be bright when you stand on it? Why is it dull? Why is it when you look up from the Earth?
But I'm no scientist, so I can't give you that answer.
But just try and make it make sense.
Why would you need to be a scientist to have an answer for this? I mean,
what has science got to do with it, though?
Nothing. But it's rhetoric. It's rhetoric that he needs here, not science. You know, he needs a good understanding of his own globe earth rhetoric. He just doesn't have it. So his declaration that I'm not a scientist is one of those cop-outs. Because science to him means an understanding of a subject matter. Because that's what he's been convinced in his latter years after school, that's what science is. So because he doesn't know the answer to the question, because he's not schooled or versed in heliocentrism, his declarative statement thereafter is, I'm not a scientist. Because what, knowing about the answer would make you a scientist? Yeah, in his mind, yeah. And like we've seen on many previous shows, knowing the answers to complicated stuff makes you a scientist in the mind's eye of many people. It isn't, but that's what people will think. And the controverse, or the contrapositive of that, is him thinking not knowing is not being a scientist.
Makes sense. Just like use like simple logic. If there's something shiny in the distance, yeah,
right,
and it's shining in the distance, and you go to it close and you touch it and it's no longer shiny, why is that? Surely it'll be shiny no matter where you are, what distance, right?
Right. But
Yeah.
wouldn't
I mean, I don't even have to critique that. That's a crap argument.
it depend on what side of the moon that you land on?
So we only see one side of the moon. We've never seen the dark side of the moon, the other side. The
Dark side. If we've never seen it, why can you imply that we even have a dark side to it, or that it's got three-dimensionality, have sides? None of these things are validated.
moon always shows the same
because it
face.
doesn't rotate.
It does rotate, but it's in what's called a
Does it? The moon rotates now. I mean, you could infer that it has a movement through libration, but that's about as much as you can give me. Eli.
Yeah, but how are you going to go land on this moon? What are you going to have to do to get there?
Travel through a sky vacuum. Violation of the second law of thermodynamics, something that definitely doesn't exist. The sky is not a vacuum.
geosynchronous lock with the Earth.
One more time.
So everything that they're going to discuss after this point is now moot.
Absolutely.
Correct. That ends it all.
Yep. Sky's not a vacuum. It's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics to assert that there is an area of volume above our head with the gas that we are breathing not filling it. Gas-filled space.
That's what they call it. Geosynchronous. Geo for rock and synchronized for
Because
synchronized.
yeah,
So we only ever see one side. We only ever land on one side of the moon. So they say.
Right. Okay.
So it would make sense. So like the reason why it's not global.
To the guy with better sound, I take it all back because he dropped in a disclaimer. So they say is enough to get a passing grade here, isn't it? Because he's now no longer saying you can land on the other side of the moon. By adding "so they say" is enough for me to take the inference that I in his shoes, I am detailing the rhetoric of the globe Earth. So they say, yeah. So you get a pass, take it all back.
When they land on it, it's because they're on the other side, but they don't go to the other side.
So the moon. So you because you've proposed this now. You've said that the moon is plasma. When you say it's plasma, what is that?
So what I mean is that it's not a physical thing. It's not a rock in space that we can go and land on.
Yeah.
Plasma is physical.
What? Moon's plasma now. Okay, why? Based on what evidence? This is the crap that we're going to have to defend if we're true earthers. Or whatever he is.
How can you
You see, this is the issue that they have.
Refracted, then flatsoid.
How can you say plasma isn't physical? It is definitely physical. That's the dumbest argument I think I've heard so far.
Go ahead, flatsoid.
You see, this is the issue they have. The globe sits exactly the same problem. They make claims that they aren't able to validate. So now the true earthers make claims as well. They might as well just be globers.
Well, they're walking down the same path of deception, or walking a group that follow them down a similar path of deception, using the same tricks.
Well, they don't know how to debate because you can't make claims in a debate about something you don't know. That's just ridiculous. To say that the moon is plasma, that comes from this physicist saying that back in the 50s, right? So that's where that nonsense comes from. Now, no one ever proved it was or wasn't or what it was. You can't just, why make a claim about something you don't know about? Just, I have no idea. You know what I mean? That's all you need to say. You don't need to go into it's plasma, and then make the second mistake of saying plasma is not physical. It's like, plasma is physical. You know what I mean? It's like, why do that? And this is what's wrong. You have a load of people out there listening to the wrong people and going into debates and things like that. And talking to the people around them, their family and friends, and saying the moon is plasma, as if like, what evidence have you got for that? Because whatever evidence, go on, finish.
No, we'll always have something to argue about when rhetoric is more important than pointing out fallacious reasoning within your own story.
Yeah, well, I don't see why you need to replace their claims with more claims, though.
You don't.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. That's like saying, I don't know why they need to come to conclusions fallaciously. It's an equally valid statement.
Well, disproving
Actually, I think it's a more valid statement.
Disproving of any statement that's a claim doesn't require you to offer up any alternative ever. You can just pummel the claim. But this guy's taking various claims of heliocentrism that he's got a vague grasp of, and then offering up a speculation in flat Earth as a rebuttal to that claim that he postulated. In other words, it wasn't being put to him by this guy.
So us on the Earth are on a firmament. Okay, like so we said, we have a firmament.
I'm nearly at the red flag stage.
Have a firmament.
I'm nearly at the red flag stage.
Before I continue, I just find it crazy that if I tell you that we're on a...
Here it comes. You haven't got an open enough mind. This is what he's been trained to do.
Planet that spins at 20,000 miles per hour. That orbits the sun at, I think, 167 miles per hour. And the sun itself is shooting...
All of this is your claim. Why are you laying this out to him?
Through the universe at 500,000 miles an hour. Moving away from the center as per...
What this is called in sales is an agreement ladder. Yeah? So what you do, if you want someone to purchase something, is you ascertain what their needs are and then repeat them back to them so that they can nod in agreement, so that when you say, so you're going to go and buy this then, let's go to the till, they will carry on nodding along. That's the point of agreement ladder. What in this setup psychologically is happening? Well, based on how this flat earther has been trained, he's now taking his opponent through an agreement ladder of heliocentrism. That's what's happening.
Per the Big Bang Theory.
At the center of the what?
Hold
the
on.
Universe.
Well, there is no center of the universe.
No.
Go on.
Hold on. It seems like I don't mean it to sound proudful, but it seems like everybody in this, like flat earth debate, flatsoid, quantum eraser, seems like we're the only ones that have grown past the feast of nonsense. And it's getting irritating. What are we, like the lone star here? Is everybody just going in a time machine and going backwards? This is ridiculous.
Encourage my audience to smash the share button, Neil. Go on, do it.
Hit the share button.
Thanks, Neil.
Nathan, just on the open, sorry.
I was just thanking Neil for his high level of enthusiasm. I was hoping he would instill the same passion into a call to action for the sharing of this show. We know, what are we?
Share button,
wasting our time?
we're so held back that we can't even get people on our show. The only way it grows is if you hit that share button. Share.
That's what I was hoping for. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I stepped in a bit early. See this thing about open-mindedness. That has been said to me by the Globers time after time after time after time. They've accused me of not being open-minded when I'm not accepting their complete and utter horse manure. So that comes from them as well. I've gotten that from them, and I've often read and heard them say flat earthers can't think in 3 dimensions. They're all 2-dimensional, implying that we're not open-minded. Right? So the nonsense when David Weissenstem and them says to a Glober, you're not open-minded, or tell someone you need to be open-minded, the ballers say the exact same rubbish. That's how they're trying to sell. They're both trying to sell the same carton of rubbish to you. But just titled differently. So that you're not open-minded thing, that is a baller trick as well.
No, there is, and that's what we're moving.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
There can't be a center of the universe.
No, that's the heliocentric model.
So no, the center of the solar system.
No. So our solar system is the Milky Way. That has all 9 of our planets. That's our solar system, and our solar system.
You can't say that.
Yeah, you got to pepper it with disclaimers. You've done it once, but that's not enough. So they say. I mean, I don't mind if you use the same term. So they say, or they say we are in a. Those sorts of disclaimers are required because, like I say, you're just building an agreement ladder of heliocentrism at the moment.
The center of the universe. We don't know where the sides of the universe
is the Milky
are.
Way. So basically, the Big Bang theory, suggests that we start from a single entity.
Yes.
And everything's going outwards. So there has to be a center. Everything's going outwards.
Which is where?
I don't know where it is. I don't believe in that model anyway. No. But that is the model. So I don't believe in that model, but that's what they say. So the sun and everything is going away from the center. We're expanding.
If you don't believe in the model, and you don't believe in the supposition, and your opponent doesn't even agree that the heliocentric supposition as you've laid it down on his behalf is right, you're on a hiding to nothing here. Not only does your opponent, this guy, not know what you're talking about, he doesn't agree with how you're detailing his belief. Just don't do it. Just don't detail other people's beliefs. Let them do it.
Constantly expanding.
You're right.
Outwards.
But apparently it's expanding and then it's shrinking, then expanding and shrinking.
Who says that?
All you're doing is giving this guy a rudimentary lesson in heliocentrism at the moment. That's all that's happening.
That's the model that I've seen.
I don't believe in any of that stuff anyways. It just doesn't make sense. But as I was saying,
all right,
so
so many questions.
When I'm telling you guys, I feel like I'm stealing the show today.
No, it's fine because this is.
I've got someone in the comments saying Jesse needs to read a little more. So, and Jesse needs cancelling or counselling. I don't know which one. Maybe
both.
Maybe both.
Jesse needs both.
Like, I just find it crazy that, like I said, I'll tell you that the Earth is spinning at 20,000 miles per hour at the equator only.
Right.
No, it isn't. We'd notice their claim of Coriolis effect if that was the case. We don't. It isn't. Again, you're postulating their claims on their behalf. I don't know why.
Right.
And at the same time, it's orbiting the sun at 167,000 miles per hour, and the sun itself is shooting for the galaxy at 500,000 miles per hour. But when you look up in the night sky,
go on, whoever that was.
I was going to say you can't stand on the equator. You can only measure an angle and then derive the equator, but the angle is measured from a flat plane.
Right. To say you stand on the equator is a reification fallacy. And the reification is of the globe Earth that you're implying if you are of that nature. And your reification comes from a measurement. That measurement's the minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris. Therefore, it's only an inferred position when described as an equator. The equator itself isn't some physical location. There's no line on the ground. But you can infer the equator by way of measurement of a flat Earth. Yeah, kudos. Hello to Adam, and then we'll continue. Hey, Adam.
Hello.
Hello.
Sky, the stars we see are in the exact same positions that they've always been in since the dawn of time.
Correct.
If we were moving through the galaxy, that wouldn't be the case. But
why do people think that the stars are like a clock in the respect that they just have one motion, that there is no alteration in them over time? If that was the case, you'd only need one almanac. There wouldn't be revisions to it. Now, don't get me wrong, we've got the predictive ability to predict where the stars will be in thousands of years' time in terms of their cyclical nature, but they do change. Now, just to clarify, I'm not disagreeing with his point in terms of heliocentric motion, but they can explain their way around that.
Yeah, but the stars are, no matter whatever changes they make, they've made them in the past, Nathan. They're cycle changes. They're not random changes based off of heliocentrism. Heliocentrism is not in line with the motion of the celestial bodies over a long period of time.
What's changing, though? The angle to the star?
Yeah, but I mean, position year on year.
Right. So the angle to the star changes. How does that help them?
It doesn't. It only helps to prove a flat plane when you describe those angle measurements and how they may change with respect to each other.
Nathan, have you ever seen a change from one zodiac sign to another? Like, will you see the change of the age of Aquarius, or will this be something that will happen just like last night's sky happened and tonight's sky happens, and you won't see what happens in between? Nobody sees what happens in between. This is one of the points you've made for a long time.
No.
So you can't talk about...
Go on, Brian. Go on. I'm disagreeing with you before you finish. Go ahead.
Yeah, these changes you're talking about. No one sees these changes. We just see it after it's changed. So the age of Aquarius, what's that going to be? Are we going to see it happening in real time, or will it just happen and we won't, or will it be a situation where it'll just happen and nobody will even know?
Well, it's like a
Do you know what I mean?
mechanism, isn't it? If you're saying the fractional change that occurs from the day and night cycle is basically imperceivable. Okay, I agree with you. But the change that there is, and there is one, is notable. And over a big enough period of time, those changes will alter where those stars are above at a given time. Therefore, you do need this year's almanac to know exactly where the star is above at a given time if you're using it to navigate with it over a flat plane. Just for the audience's benefit,
sure?
everything we discuss from here forth requires a flat plane. We're just discussing the minutiae of the movement of the stars, right? And in terms of how they do have a cyclical nature, if you were to plot it over an enormous amount of time, they'd eventually reset. That much is true. But
don't you find it odd, though, that anything they present is not...
Hello? In the middle of talking to Brian. I want to summarise his point so he understands that I've recognised what he said. What Brian is saying is there's no perceivable change that you can actually observe during the night cycle. That does not happen. Yeah? So this inference that you have retrograde motion for the sake of argument, you're never actually going to see that. There's an inference when you plot them over time, night on night. But there is no actual deviation of one star versus another through the night sky. You can see the occultation of the moon, or the moon occulting a star, moreover, throughout the night. But that's it. In terms of their positioning, it's like a cog with a ratchet. It moves across during the daytime, and we do not see the move. When the night then starts its night cycle, you then see the positions that they're going to be moving in a linear manner. They're just cycling like they would every other night. And if there has been a change that you haven't noted, the difference would be imperceivable. And the change that actually happens never occurs before your eyes. Hope that was your point, Brian.
Yeah, but you said something there, and see, there's a couple of things you have to say, and I don't agree with him. You said they move about, they change about in the daytime. You know, it's like, no, you have no evidence of that either. All you know is night will look slightly different from last night. That's it.
Okay, I don't mind the critique in that way.
See these little tiny changes you're speaking about over a course of time. You won't see them either.
I totally agree, and my phraseology was just poor. When I say they change in the daytime, that's incorrect, because I don't know that they change. I don't know where they go for them to change.
I'm pulling you up on your very point. You normally pull people up on this, or you did in the past, and now you're falling into the very trap that they fell into. That you would normally address
I wasn't going to die on the hill that they change in the day, Brian. It just flowed with the way I was describing it. I'm not going to die on that hill.
I know, but I have to say it to you. I'm sorry.
No, you don't need to apologise, and I shouldn't take it so personally. I was just wrong in my description. They change the following night. That is to say, where they line up with each other with respect to each other as they move through their standard motion that was the same as the last night, they've changed when you next see them, where I previously said in the day. I don't know what happened. In the day, they've gone. They're not doing anything.
I know. I'm trying to make you laugh about this. It's like when you ask, like when you go ask yourself, hang on, what did I just say? I don't see any of that. My point is, and you've made this. My point comes directly from you making the point. You pointed yourself first. I didn't know. Everyone notices it, but they don't think about it. You pointed it out. We don't see that. Tomorrow night, I will see a different projection above me, right, than I will tonight. That's like one slider comes out of the projector, another slider goes in. Do you know what I mean? One of these old 1970s type projectors, like a presentation, on a stage.
Yes.
Or in a classroom. That's the only way I can describe it.
That's a perfect way. That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
That's perfect. If you imagine your old-fashioned school projector where it had one film that you could lay on a light and it projected it up through the light, through the lens onto your screen. And then when you went on to the next part of the story or whatever it is they were doing on that overhead projector, you took out one slide or one piece of acrylic and put another one on. Well, if you imagine that with the stars, you've got that A4 piece of acrylic that's see-through for a light to shine through up onto the screen. Well, you've got one set of stars, and they're all going to stay in exactly the same position because they're put on a film. They're put on a piece of plastic that's see-through. Now, what you're going to do once it's on that flat light is physically, with your own hand, turn that film, that piece of plastic that's see-through with all the dots that represent the lights on it, you're going to turn it on the projector. And that's going to be analogous to what you see in the sky when you look at it on the overhead projector. Now, when metaphorically the night ends and the day comes, you take the film off and you put next day's stars. Now, they're basically almost exactly the same as the last night's. They're just slightly different, yeah? And then you see those and you turn them manually. But you don't get to see, like, with a projection that creates an image that is a movie. With a standard film, you've got 24 frames per second, which is enough to trick your eye into a series of photographs being perceived as moving. You never get that with the stars. It's never going to be like a flick book where you see the retrograde motion of a star from one position to the next. In theory, going backwards with relation to the stars from the previous night if you lined them up as a flick book. But they don't do that. They change in the day. Right, should we carry on with this video, or is there anything more to add on this?
The stars are a mystery.
But they've got a practical application, Neil. So why focus on the bits you don't know when you do know how they can be practically applied to save lives? That's all you need to focus on. Well, why do they move in that way? I don't know. What I do know is you can plot them and navigate with them on a flat Earth. That's a practical application that the globers just don't have. Same with the horizon. What do they have to practically apply a claim that boats are obscured by a physical limitation hill in the way called Earth curve? How is that practically applied in any way beyond indoctrinating people into a globe Earth belief? Answer: there isn't a practical application for it. Meanwhile, ascertaining a horizontal plane of reference with the horizon, the same one they said was blocking boats and buildings, is a way you can utilise the horizon to save your life at sea, if Earth's flat. Now, which is a better argument? I think it's perspective that causes the boat. Who gives a crap why the boat disappears? Is that boat disappearing going to be put into a practical application to save my life at sea? No? Well, the horizon's used to ascertain a horizontal plane of reference, that's a flat Earth, to save my life at sea. Trump that, dickhead. That would be my response when it comes to the horizon from here, moving here forward. Do I know why the horizon is what it is? Strictly speaking, yes. But I would probably lie, just for the sake of this example, and say no. Why? Because I don't need to explain what the horizon is with diffraction limits. Do I? It's not my claim. I'm not claiming it's a building-based hill-blocking horizon that's called Earth curve. So why am I going to justify what forms the horizon? But I do know how it's practically applied to save people's lives when Earth is measured flat. Far more devastating.
And this is why I had that rant before, because it's only being said here and the people like-minded.
What you're saying, Neil, is we are ace, and more should be like us.
Yes.
But you see the point I wanted to say that, have you guys noticed everything that they present is invalidatable? You are not able to observe anything they claim. You just have to have faith.
Not necessarily. They take things that do exist in reality and hijack them with back engineerings, often using a flat plane, to claim that what you are seeing in physical reality represents a reification of a globe Earth horizon in the case of this example. Well, that's a physical thing that you can claim to see. It's not physical. It's the limitation between eye level and, between surface level and sea level, or the ground and sky. That's what you're actually observing, if you're going to define it. But they claim that thing that you can see is physical and is going to block your view because it is a hill called Earth curve. But that's a hijacking of something that we see in reality. Like the stars, they say the stars are rotating because we turn underneath. Again, a hijacking of something they claim is an effect of Earth moving, called Coriolis effect. Well, we all know the flaws in the argument of Coriolis effect, and I don't want to get into a 2-hour discussion about it now, but that is their claim of something that we can see. You can observe the stars to be moving. They just suggest it's as a result of you turning underneath on a rotating, non-inertial turning Earth. That is something you can see, Flatzoid, just to...
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's invalidatable for the account. They just make a claim. Obviously, you can observe stars moving, But their claim is it changes due to a certain thing that you cannot be used to validate it.
Well, their claim of why it does what it does with the changing motions, it's Kepler that's given an explanation for it with orbital motion, isn't it? He's made the motion elliptical to explain what was previously described with retrograde motion, just unsatisfactorily. So he's then gone along and said, well, how can we write this wrong so that the predictions match up better? And he's put everything into elliptical orbits. But that is, again, something that he can say, the reason this motion of this light occurs, when in reality, no, the reason it'll be in a different position when you next look at it the following night cycle. Because that's what he's actually trying to explain.
No, you have it wrong about Kepler. I'm sorry.
What?
Not saying you have it wrong. That may not be correct. You don't have it 100%. My point is you don't have it correct.
Outrageous. Get out.
Yeah, I have to say this to you. This is the point I've been trying to make from I don't know how many years ago. What Kepler had to do, right, was he had to back engineer, right, the sun cycle, which is what we observe the sun to do throughout the year, into the Copernican model. The only way he could do that was via an elliptical orbit. That us on a globe would have to have an elliptical orbit of that sun. Now, that sun in their model is claimed to be a star, right? So he has to then extrapolate out that all other stars or things like them, any orbits after that, had to also be elliptical.
That's correct.
We don't observe orbits. Nobody actually observes orbits.
I'll just give you props.
Brian,
let me just give Brian props. Right. Do you know what the title of the book I got all this from was, Brian? The Sun in the Church. And you are absolutely correct.
Gavin, can I ask a quick question, please?
You can.
My first appearance on the show. Thanks.
Well, Brian's got something to tail off with, but yeah, can you just wait till Brian's done, then Arwin, then John? Go on, Brian.
No, I'm okay. I just wanted to make that point that
Fine, go ahead,
he
Arwin.
had to back engineer reality.
Yeah, with the sun. Well, the point that I got wrong was the sun, and you're right. And even the title of the book itself was The Sun in the Church. Anyway, go ahead, Arwin.
I was wondering if you could manage to explain technically as succinctly as possible exactly why it was required to use an elliptical model, specifically only that part. Why? Could you?
Because the sun cycle, right? Now, I can't say this is exactly what the sun is doing, but the sun cycle, right, is basically stating that in the north summer months, that the sun is at its highest point in the sky and it makes its smallest rotation above us, right? And it moves at its slowest. And as we go from June 21st to December 21st, the sun lowers in the sky. It creates a bigger circle or elliptical maybe around us, and it moves a bit faster. And when it reaches December 21st, the sun is at its lowest point in the sky, and it has its biggest circuit, whatever that circuit is, and moves at its fastest rate. Right? That's the cycle. That's how the sun cycle. That's what it actually is. Now, to make that work, sorry.
Yeah, so the elliptical orbit is there because of the back and forth swing of the sun, basically, over the seasons.
Yeah, the only way to make it work, if you look into it, the only way for him to make that apparent cycle, because you can only call it apparent, because I don't know if it's doing exactly that, but that apparent cycle, the only way to make that work by putting us with the Copernican model, which is us on a globe orbiting around the sun, the only way to make that work is to create elliptical orbits. That's why they have this tilt to 23.4 degree tilt, and they have the 3 million mile difference in northern and southern summers. That's why that's there, because he had to mathematically make it work. And then after that, all orbits were elliptical, and when we look up in the sky, we don't see any of them.
Right, because technically we're standing still and the celestials are having this back and forth swing cycle of the seasons, but because they have to reverse everything around and make the Earth spinning around things, then that translates that back and forth swinging of the celestials into that elliptical model that they would have to follow to make it seem to fit. That's it.
Yeah, exactly, because with the rotation of the globe, that's sidereal, and it's very specific why it's sidereal. because they can't claim that it's solar because the solar won't match it. So they had to go with sidereal to match the stars. That's where the whole Coriolis effect claim comes from with the globe. So we're rotating at a sidereal rate, not a solar rate, which is what changes our day, the position of the sun from day to day. That's also part of it.
Just bear with me a second while I do a quick shout out to Gene. He says, I just want to shout out Adam on Saturday's Globebusters. You have me rolling on the floor. Thank you for the super chat.
Right, so technically within their reasoning, if there were no cyclical orbits, there wouldn't be seasons. That's what that would result into, right?
Yeah, exactly. They wouldn't be able to explain any kind of season. Not that they have a good explanation for it anyway. They don't have an explanation.
All the celestials would just be the steady, same person over and over again.
It's not that it's not a good explanation. It's just counterintuitive when they lay it out for you. You being further away from the sun in the northern hemisphere winter, it doesn't make any sense when they lay it out. But their tilt is the reason. Brian's right. That is how it's described.
Yeah, but just real quick, the tilt and the orbits are with respect to a plane of reference.
And you were going there next. Epic. That's correct. So this is where the discussion about not needing an axis got into quite a heated discussion a couple of weeks ago. Because we were already getting there. It's already being interrupted by Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I have to say this. That was my point years ago.
Oh, it's an agreement. I love it. Oh, Brian's on board. Excellent. Go ahead, John. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, just leave me make my point a second. That was my point years ago. He had to back engineer what he was viewing off a horizontal flat plane. This is what I was saying years ago in my presentations about it. The Kepler has to back engineer it from a stationary plane. That's what he had to do and what the sun is doing over us. So when John says that, yeah, it's correct. But I was a point I was trying to make for years. No one listened to it.
And you have video to prove it, right, Brian? You have your videos to prove it.
I don't actually, because my presentations were on Ranties, and Anthony got Ranty to leave his channel.
Oh, God. That's it. You got nothing to hang your hat on.
No, Neil, he has the default. He came up with it 2 weeks before everybody else to hang it up with.
It's irrelevant. If Brian says he said it, why would I argue with Brian? It's irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me that said it, it'd be obviously a high degree of importance, and that would be stressed. But as Brian said it a couple of weeks ago, who cares? Okie dokie. Should we carry on with this video? Is there anything more to say on elliptical motion?
No, but if Brian said it, you would have jumped on it and took it as your own.
No, I don't mind admitting my own ignorance. Right?
Yeah, but we were probably digging into the black swan or something.
Or distracted by other things that stopped us from comprehending the fantastic demolition of this particular position with respect to a globe and proof of a flat earth that Brian disseminated. No, we just weren't smart enough to pay attention and digest what Brian had to say back then. I'm happy to admit my ignorance. When Brian says in his frustration, no one would listen, I'm sure I was listening. I listen quite intently to everything you say, actually, Brian. Doesn't mean I understand it. Doesn't mean I'm going to be able to regurgitate it in a coherent way that forms an argument. Just hearing and listening doesn't mean I comprehend. And I am more than content to admit my own ignorance if you have put that information out to me and, as you put it, no one's listening. You can always detect when it happens. So let's say it's you put out this 2 years ago, and there's a brief silence enough for you to know that everyone's recognized that they don't have anything to add or can't necessarily parrot it back to you or paraphrase it back to you enough for you to understand that they have understood it. There's just that small pause and then a subject change. And you often do this, Brian. I pick up on it all the time and I feel guilty because I can't back you up because I haven't comprehended it either. So you'll go, oh, right, it's not going to acknowledge that what I've just said. And the answer is no. Why? Because no one can summarize it. Because they haven't comprehended it either. I won't say they, me. I haven't comprehended it, so therefore there's just a short pause followed by a subject change. Right, Brian?
Yeah, it's on me too, though, because when I try and explain stuff, the way I try to explain it, it's obviously not as good as other people. When I initially do it. Because I was saying it for years, trying to make the point about that thing since 2016, 2017, whatever it was. And it was falling on deaf ears. But when John points out, no, you're going to need a flat earth for that, and he shows an orbit, and you lead a flat, and like that is literally making the same point, but he did it in such a way where everyone listened. So I can't claim it even as mine in that way. Anyway, not that I'm looking to claim it. I'm just trying to support John and what he's saying. Is like, yeah, that's the point. You know what I mean? It don't matter. I'm just looking for attention.
Yeah, but you know what, Brian? Hold on 1 second. There's a lot of things that I'm understanding, and I got it, and then it comes out months later, like Nathan says, then people grasp it, but I got it at the first. Just because it's not voiced doesn't mean you don't get it. I mean, when John explained it, I got it because he showed it. In my mind, I could illustrate it and figure it out.
I agree. When John explained it, I got it. I got it when John explained it. When you explained it, you're just a bit shit.
Yeah. Hold on a minute.
BJ in 2016 had made a video talking about a black swan argument. He even called it a black swan argument for the horizon Earth curve.
No,
nobody was listening to him.
What a load of nonsense!
It's true.
I call bullshit.
Dodo.
No, he did do that, and nobody paid attention because it was messy. It wasn't very technical, but that was what he was trying to do, and then he just left it there. He forgot about it himself.
Right.
It's still out there. The video is still there.
PJ said that to me as well. He did say that to me.
Yeah, because it's true. He's an idiot, but he did get some things interestingly right.
I never give a presentation on this. NASA did it for me back in the 80s. So if anybody can beat that, we'll just give NASA the credit for pointing it out.
Well, it's part of the rhetoric.
That'd be better.
Again, the people, why should there be credit for pointing it out? Now, again, if you're listening, Math Powerland, I'm really sorry, because this is basically going to try all of your validity in terms of being the first person to expose it in the current wave of people who now think the Earth is flat, believe the Earth is flat. But nevertheless, Earth is flat. Now, being the one to point out that it's flat doesn't change that it's flat, does it? Now, in this instance, Brian being the one to point it out when, in reality, the model of a globe requires a flat plane. Now, spotting the fact that it requires a flat plane and pointing it out to an audience, yeah, you can take as much credit as you like, but as John's just managed to sap away everybody's credit with one statement. NASA pointed it out in the 80s in that video we covered recently. Why? Well, because there's a necessity for a flat plane on a globe. Now, summarizing it in that way was something that John did that I, really, really liked. And originally, a couple of weeks back even, maybe even a month now, people didn't like. I don't know why. We worked our way through it, and now it's Brian that was covering it 2 years ago. Now, that's good. That's the way I want it to be. Good. Now, if it's good because Brian gets to point out that he's way ahead of the curve and always is, he's a very smart guy, then all more power to Brian for pointing that out. And I'll agree with him. It isn't necessarily credit worthy. And I'm not saying that to take credit away from Brian. I'm saying these are matter of fact. It's not like, oh, no, we've spotted the hidden flat Earth they needed. No, it's the foundation. They can't not point it out in a video in the 80s. It's how the model's made, using a flat Earth. Now, yeah, we do need to sing this from the hilltops, but if we spend 20 minutes crediting Brian, we're not going to be doing that, are we? Now, if it was me, we'd spend 30 minutes crediting me, but like I say, it's Brian, so...
We would, after you robbed it from someone else.
Well, from you. I just like to say, I like the way that John was banging the door more often. So it's not necessarily that what you have pointed out wasn't necessarily coherent enough for people to understand. I'm sure it was. It's just about repetition. About banging that door over and over and over and over and over until people get it. That's why the show works, right? Many of the things that we cover are complex and aren't immediately understood and comprehended by the audience. Therefore, repetition is the key. Like with any education, that's how you become fluent in something. Doesn't matter what. Repetition. So there's a reason we have the housekeeping formatted the way it is. There's a reason that people's criticism in the comments, it's a bit samey. Yeah, there's going to be a time where you come here and you find out all the information because we're trying to lay it out in the most concise way. If you paid attention for a week or two, you'd probably extract all of the up-to-date information that you'd need about this subject matter. I'm going to say about a fortnight. Do you reckon we cover everything in the space of a fortnight of any given period of shows? Therefore, you can just come along, extract what you want from it, realise it's measured flat, and then get on with your day. Now, that's not going to be great for audience retention because it's repetitive. But people still see the value in it. And they also realise that slow are the cogs that turn. Now, we can all praise our wonderful understandings of flat Earth requirements, but it's taken a time for us as a collective group to turn all of those cogs enough to make it into a concise argument. And a concise argument's what's needed for an audience member to digest it, to then realise the value of it. Now, that takes time. You can't just expect Brian, if you're an audience member, 2 years ago, to be able to disseminate this to you as an audience member in such a concise fashion that you can immediately hear it when it's only just being put to you by Brian after he's only just researched it that day and made a video about it the following day. And he's expected to put it into a 3-word sentence? No, definitely not. It's going to take some comprehension on Brian's part for him to understand it in such a way that he can format it better. And that takes a collective group a bit less time, admittedly. But we've got to understand it, haven't we? So this is a journey of discovery that the regulars, the members, the people who support me on Patreon, all of those people, they see the slow turning cogs but want to keep up to date with them because there are, I don't want to call them revelations, but major changes that occur at some of those ratchet points. You know, we like to highlight them and call it things like the year of the black swan or the year of the elevation angle. But we can only do that as those cogs are turning. And it is a fascinating process to watch our collective discovery journey into flat Earth. But, you know, you can't expect immediate refinement from Brian. Notice how I've paraphrased this into a sort of negative slant on how we shouldn't be criticising Brian for his failures. I'm such a prick. Anyway, shout out to Tom for joining as a member and for super chatting. He says, bring it up. It took me a year for 90 degrees to click. Thanks. Oh, thank you, Tom. I could kiss you. There you go. Now I do lay that at Brian. You know, it is full. He could have been more concise. It would have got there. You'd have got there quicker if it wasn't for Brian's inconsistency. But I know what you're saying, Tom.
Well, surprisingly, I got that right away. But it was 10th Man that was leaking it out in the pre-show. So, you know.
Did Brian go? Did he not hear any of those insults? Those backhanded insults that fell on deaf ears? Did he disappear? Bastard. Get him back here so I can insult him some more for his intelligence that I'm mocking because I'm not as smart as he is. What an outrage. Anyway, should we carry on with this video? I've asked about 4 times.
Yes, carry on. Hit play.
I tell you that, and it's fine. Yeah? But then I tell you, no. We actually live in a firmament and we're stationary and the sun and the moon orbit the Earth. You call me crazy. Like, what's maybe crazy?
He's making his baseless assertion and then making the declaration that he's going to be called crazy for it before he's even been called crazy. No, just making baseless assertions.
Oh, crazy, Jesse. Maybe he is crazy.
Guys, I believe what I believe. Like, you tell me.
Yep, there we go. There's the problem.
Crazy if you think that's an argument.
Yeah, crazy if you think that's an argument, and expressing it as your belief would be strictly accurate, but it doesn't really sell anybody on the ideas that you believe in.
Me that Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, traveled to Bethlehem, died for how many?
This ham-handed segue.
Days, rose
after 3 days.
And then went to heaven. You tell me
people believe that.
Or he turned 2 loaves and 3 fish into to feed 5,000. And people are like,
yeah, that works.
That works.
I hope Brian didn't go because he actually thought I was insulting him, as opposed to like backhanded insults. I hope not.
No, Brian would never do that.
Well, you know, sometimes people.
Okay, Nathan.
Yes,
Nathan. You were talking about the second law of thermodynamics and the moon.
Oh no, Georgie.
No. Take it easy, man. Take it easy. What if the moon is inside? Our atmosphere. They say atmosphere, actually more on atmosphere. So if it is inside, like they are saying now, the moon is inside the atmosphere, then you cannot use the argument, second law of thermodynamics, and it's going behind any firmament or whatsoever, or barrier, or so on and so on. So what do you think about that? If the moon is just small and is inside our atmosphere?
Okay, I mean, that's fair enough. If you want to claim that it's small and inside, then I'd just ask you to prove that, if you want to put that forth as a claim.
Yeah, it looks like that. It's an observation, like you're able
it
to
says
see it.
in the firmament, not in the air.
Right, are you now going to launch into defending what the Bible says, Arwin? I said if he wants to claim, that is to say, if Johnny B wants to claim that we've got a small moon inside a firmament, inside the atmo, then that's up to him. Just, okay, Johnny, fine. Prove that it's small and inside anything.
No, I'm not claiming. I'm just.
What do you mean you're not claiming?
Like
you just claimed
close.
that. Hold on, I listened to what you just said. That's exactly what you just said.
I said it can be like that, and they also say that.
Oh, sorry.
The official.
My bad. Sorry,
say,
I misunderstood. You're saying it can't be like the guy who just said it was like that, right? So we're in agreement then. He hasn't got any evidence to back that, and you're in agreement with us.
Absolutely,
I see.
There's a lot of agreement there. Yeah.
I see. No, I totally agree with you. It's baseless assertion that it's inside some. What is it? What's the moon? He doesn't know. He's just making a baseless assertion.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
There are certain specific words being used in the Bible, right? Firmament being one of them. Atmo or air is not even mentioned in it like that. It's not relevant to the location of the celestials. They're placed in the firmament. That's all you got. The rest is all just speculation. It's not a basis for an argument.
Yeah, but also in another passage, birds fly in the firmament, and they're not flying inside a piece of glass, are they? So I think we can all agree there are issues with certain translations, but they are issues from men and not from the word itself.
Right. The word again.
Good point.
Why are we now debating the Bible? I don't get it.
Right. None of this even matters. None of this makes sense. In reality, we have air. We have a system. The system is a part of the creation. There is no air and then nothingness. There is no. But that's just.
Thank you, Eli. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Indeedy. Well, with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned. There will be an after show to follow. Am I off mute? Yes, I am. If you are watching this live, though, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Obviously, a thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Another quick shout out to Himsake, who smashed the super chat just as the intro started. He says, can we have a quick explanation of dip correction angles? ? I see Globers using it to get radius value. Thanks. Well, thank you for the super chat, Himsake. Unfortunately, no, we're not going to cover that on this live show, but we'll cover it in the after show, I'm certain. Thanks. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show.